What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Opus, the new thriller film from A24 starring Edebiri. Opus premiered at Sundance earlier this year and is the directorial debut from former journalist Mark Anthony Green. In addition to Edebiri, you also have familiar faces like John Malkovich, Juliette Lewis, Marie Bartlett, Amber Midthunder, Young Mizuno, and Tatanaka Means. Pretty good cast. Opus is the latest example of the perhaps nascent new subgenre of horror film, the cult horror movie. Normal person finds themselves around a lot of people, seemingly is the only person noticing anything is wrong, and wants to get out of there alive. When you have steady direction, some engaging visuals, and really committed performances, in this case Edebiri and Malkovich, it's a familiar formula that works for a reason. The problem with Opus is that once you take a step back from what you're watching, you realize it's pretty derivative material and doesn't really do anything super new with the format. I still enjoyed my time with the movie, but the comparisons to a recent film like Blink Twice really jumps out after a while. I did enjoy the premise of Opus specifically, though, in the sense that this enigmatic cultural pop icon, Moretti, played by John Malkovich, coming out of seclusion, out of, anonymity, privacy for the first time in like almost 30 years to release a new album. Cool framing for this. A series of journalists and media members are invited to a listening event in, I believe, secluded Utah, Moretti's, vast estate. And at that estate, we realize that Moretti has a convent of followers, we could say, this, nascent religion, the Levelists, who believe in creativity as this kind of driving, central life force and things of that nature. Again, a lot of this is pretty similar to the framing of Blink Twice, but if you take it a step further, this general genre of movie pertains to a lot of recent stuff, right? The Menu, Midsommar, Get Out, Don't Worry Darling, etc., right? You understand the framing at this point. I think Io does a really good job as Ariel Ecton, this new journalist who hasn't really been able to make a name for herself, working under the thumb of her editor, Marie Bartlett's character. And, from the jump, I think some of the best kind of like humor moments are with Ariel's kind of like what the fuckness to everything going on around her. I really enjoyed the setup of the movie and the premise. I just think it starts to fall away once you realize that it's kind of just basically being set up as a generic cult, so to speak, a death cult. Maybe, there's just not actually a lot under the hood with it once you spend more time. And I think the movie just kind of runs out of steam by the end, and once the reveals happen towards the end of the movie in the third act, they kind of fall a bit flat for me, just because you kind of feel like you saw them coming, just because there wasn't really much other groundwork laid. Like the mystery, the intrigue of it all kind of fizzles out, And I think comparing it to like Blink Twice last year, the twist with Blink Twice maybe similarly a bit more predictable, but certainly really wows you, surprises you, angers you, etc. Like that. It's just a flashier twist than what Opus has. Opus's twist is pretty mild. Malkovich is really committed as Moretti. It's a pretty fun performance. I think in general the concept of like the secluded listening event, it really invokes what Kanye West did in Wyoming in May 2018 regarding Ye and the other good music albums. I think that was a cool touch point for sure. I think even visually he has some cool, costumes and stuff, even if I think musically he's more of like a electronic pop artist, not a rapper or anything like that. Amber Midthunder is in the movie as one of the followers of Moretti who's there, and she doesn't really have a whole lot to do. I was a bit surprised, honestly, having seen her, how great she was in Prey, smaller roles like on Legion on FX. Like, she doesn't have a whole lot to do in this. I did notice when watching the credits that actually Amber's mother, Angelique, was actually the casting director of this movie, interestingly enough. Also in the film, as another follower of Moretti, was Tatanaka Means as Naji. Means was fucking amazing in Killers of the Flower Moon, of course, a native actor. He is great, and I was so happy to see him again. I want to see him in more stuff. I think he's awesome, but he doesn't have a whole lot to do. Young Mizuno also only actually gets one scene in the beginning as Ariel's friend. Of course, he broke out with Netflix's Beef 2 years ago. Looking forward to seeing more from him as well. We know he'll be on The Last of Us Season 2, which is really cool. I also want to shout out Amber Midthunder because she's also in the new movie Novocaine. She's actually in two movies getting a large release on the same exact day. When does that ever happen? Overall, Opus, Mark Anthony Green, former journalist, makes his first movie, gets that Sundance premiere, gets picked up by A24, gets flashy actors in the film. Good for him. I think he probably clearly proved that he can be a good director. I think the movie is well directed, and I just think with more seasoning, he was the writer of the movie as well, more work, he can probably make something a bit more interesting. But even if the movie again is quite derivative, I do think the setup is interesting enough. Some of the performances from Edebiri and Malkovich are good, so it's not a movie without merits, but I'm sure he'll do better work in the future. And Io, despite the movie being so, I do think it's a nice star turn from her. We've kind of been waiting for that on the movie side of things. She hasn't really had like a big starring movie role yet. I think the biggest thing really was a supporting role in Bottoms, which was a comedy, of course. So, Io Devery post The Bear is going to have a long runway as an actor. That much is pretty clear. Let me know though, what did you think of A24's Opus? What did you like most about it? Did the movie come together in a better way for you than it did for me? Let me know. And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.